Okay, we're going to go over designing loop. That's a section 4 of chapter 3 for Savitch book for C++. So we're going to be talking about some parts of this one. We break it down to the smaller pieces. So first one is talking about designing loop. How do we design loops? So what is involved with designing loop? So you remember, deciding on this is going to be part of your design document. Pseudocode is part of your design document, and then we're going to bring it back to our IDE, and we're going to write the program for it. So the body of the loop, what is going to be inside the loop? The initializing a statement. Remember, that's what I call set. What condition do you want the ending loop? That's going to be the check. So if we have something like sum, that would be a good one to use this kind of a loop. So we might have something like this. This is our pseudocode. We set the, let me get my arrows over here. So we have our initialization in the top, and then we're going to have some kind of repeat the statement. And we're talking about how many times we want to repeat this. We're going to read our next one, and then we're going to add the next to the sum and end of loop. So this is a typical pseudocode. I did ask you guys not to write any code in here, because I have seen some students have a tendency of write the code and copy and paste it in a design. That is not the use of a design. We are thinking about what we want to do. Generally, we don't want to even have these things. We're just going to say read next variable or next input, and then we're going to add it to the sum. I don't want to think about coding. I don't want you to think about coding over here at all. 1, 2, in real life, you might design this one and give it to a group to write it in C++. You might give it to another group to write it in Python. So for that reason, we don't put that much of coding in here. So now we have this loop, and of course, the key in this one is how many times we want to do. So because I have this many times, and we know where we are starting, and we know how many times we want to do this loop, then for a statement would be the ideal one for what we do. So we're going to take the pseudocode, we're going to take it to our IDE, and we're going to write the code. So for me to have this many, I'm going to start with 1, I'm going to do less than or equal this many, or I'm going to start with 0, I'm going to make it less than this many. In this case, I'm just going to count up, because I'm starting with 1, I want to eventually get to this many. So let's say it's 10, I start with 1, and I keep going up to 1 to get to 10. So for the for loop, we have set, check, change all at the same time. So we can have a choice when there is a predetermined number of iteration. So how many do we have? Or we might ask the user. So we have this example. So we are starting with count equal 1. We go to that many, count plus plus with the loop body in here. We can use it for the product. So we can use it in there also. So again, because we know how many do we want to do, let's say we want to do 10 times, 15 times, 5 times, whatever it is. And then we're going to put our product inside the body. So this product equal product times next, of course, is the same as product star equal next. So we have to be sure that we are initializing product. Remember, C++ does not automatically initialize your variable. So if I don't initialize it over here, then it's going to take the number that it has in the memory, and generally that's a large number, it's not a small number. And if I put this as a 0, what's going to happen? It's going to be 0 times something, so my total is going to be 0. My product is going to be 0. So when you run your program, something similar to this, and your result is 0, then you know your initialization is 0. If your result is a big, huge number, then you know that you haven't even initialized. So those are some of the things we have to watch out for this. So we have to be sure that we have some kind of an ending for our loop, especially for the while loop. Remember, if I don't have the ending for the while loop, then it can go forever. That's infinite loop or endless loop. It's just going to run forever. So there are some ways of doing it. So I might have a list headed by size. So I have 10 numbers to do or so. I might ask before the iteration, I might ask you how many numbers do you have, how many tests do you have, how many names do you have. Then I know how many do I have for the list. I might have something with the sentinel value. That means if you enter this sentinel value, I'm going to stop. These are all about stopping. So the example in this one would be, we're going to enter positive number terminated by negative number. That would be my sentinel value. Or I can say enter characters terminated by semicolon. So as far as you don't put semicolon, you can put as many characters as you want. And because we don't know how many do we have, we cannot use for loop for these. And the last one, of course, number 4 is running out of the input. This is something that we're going to be looking in chapter 6. I don't know why your author is going to bring it here in this chapter, while we're going to be talking about it in chapter 6. But we just briefly go over it. So the first one was list headed by size. So I already know how many I want, or I'm going to be asking the user to enter. And then I can create my folder. So number 1 is going to be a list headed by size. So I already know what the size is. Number 2 is going to be asking for it. So this example is I'm going to be asking for how many items do you have, and then I'm going to ask you for the number, and I'm going to read it, and so on and so forth. So this one is ask before iterating. So we're going to ask the user, do you want to continue? If the user says yes, then I am going to go through this and I'm going to have my program. So this is the different options that we are using. We are asking the user at the end, but we can ask the user, and if the user enters something that is affecting my loop, I may or may not even go inside it. We are using this for input validation. So if we have ended with the sentinel, we are, in this case, we are going to be reading negative numbers. And as soon as I see a positive number, or the other way around, we are looking for a positive number. As soon as we see a negative number, we're going to stop. Running out of input, we're going to be looking at this in chapter 6. We're going to read a file, and then if we don't have nothing else in the file, we're going to stop. Don't worry about this for this chapter, just something that it was there. I'm going to stop right here.